It's a shame that I have to start a video like this, but I figured it to be almost deemed necessary. Unfortunately, within our society, there are some things that we simply cannot talk about, even if they're true, even if they're backed by science. We can't discuss them because we don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. And that is not why I created this channel. I don't mind uncomfortability. What I do care about is people's feelings to a certain extent, but not when it is overthrown by the data. And I furthermore feel like when you lie to people and when you conceal certain scientific truths, if you will, it leads to bigger problems and it can lead to massive inequalities. And so when I discuss this video, I just want you guys to keep an open mind and realize that I am not a bad person. I'm just someone that has looked honestly at the science, and the science is pretty much irrefutable. And so with that being said, I know that we all feel that there are certain discrepancies between IQs of certain individuals. I've been around people that are absolute unequivocal geniuses, and they make my mind hurt just trying to wrap it around the things that they're saying when they're talking about quantum physics or whatever it may be. Maybe they're an advanced mathematician or they're discussing the engineering behind artificial intelligence. My mind isn't capable of conceiving that, let's say. Let's say it's not. And so I fully grasp how people are different. And people are different. Certain people have specific strengths and weaknesses. And the sooner we accept that, and it's on an individualized basis, guys. Certain people have certain strengths and certain weaknesses. And I think that if we ignore that, then we might be causing that individual more heartache than benefit by wrapping them in a bubble and telling everyone that they're exactly the same. I'm sorry, but you're not. There are children, for instance, that are predispositioned for obesity, and you can't tell them that they're going to be an Olympic track star because it's not the case. You can't tell there certain people based on nothing but evolution, guys. It's evolution. Certain groups or certain people, because there are outliers within those groups. Groups are just to refine the mean of certain aspects of group culture. And man, this is just, I don't know why it's so difficult for us to even discuss this, so I'm just going to get right into it. There are certain differences between certain racial groups within our society. And it's not, it has nothing to do with oppression. It really doesn't, guys. When I was younger, I loved basketball. I still love basketball. I was never really that good at it. I could never dunk a basketball. I wasn't the fastest. I couldn't jump the highest. I just wasn't great at basketball. I'm 5'11", unless you look at my old Tinder page and it says maybe I'm 6'1". Just kidding. I'm not on Tinder. However, this is just something that I was never able to achieve. I couldn't go to the NBA. There's no way. If you look at the NBA, it is 99.999% African American. It is. It just is. It's not because the NBA is racist against white people. Is that the case? Is it the case that the NBA is like, nope, you're Asian. Sorry, we can only have one Jeremy Lin. You're Asian, you're not allowed in. I know you're better than all of these other players, but you cannot come in. And it seems like anything that has to do with athleticism just gets automatically filtered out through nature to benefit and allow a certain group to excel in it. Now, vice versa. Now, that is not an issue, and society has no problem with that. Everyone is equal from the neck down within our society, but I am, or really not even sounding the alarm, but I'm willing to put my neck out and actually begin talking about the fact that what if, in fact, not even what if, it's the truth. Not only from the neck down are we equal, or not equal rather, but we're not equal from the neck up either, guys. There's certain people that are very gifted at music, and there's certain people that are exceptionally gifted at mathematics, and then there's people that can do a wide array of things, and everything is different. And so I know for a fact that IQ and just your intelligence, and by the way, these IQ tests are not racist, and they don't even have language barriers. It's simple pattern recognition for the most part when you're talking about a standardized IQ test. And in fact, do you know who created the IQ test? The government did, in order to find out who was capable of going to war. That's the government. It wasn't created by the Ku Klux Klan, guys. It was created by the government, and it's been an IQ test that has been used because it's the most effective way to produce economic success, intellectual capability. It's not biased. It's not racist against any race. It's not sexist against male versus female. It just is what it is. It's the best way we have to interpret whether or not a human being is going to be successful within their lifespan. And these IQ differences are vastly different, and I think that we need to discuss them, because we should not be telling people that they are consistently dropping the ball within society if they're preordained to fit within a certain sector of our economic level or within our crime rate. It all goes back to evolution. And I know that people like Charles Murray and whatever, the bell curve, I don't know his intentions. They seem to me to be pure, but I don't know. I wasn't around then. I didn't even live back then. I wasn't even around to conceptualize the bell curve, but the bell curve was essentially him and one other scientist talking about IQ differences between groups. And it wasn't a hateful book. In fact, just one chapter spoke about this, and it got hell. It ostracized him. People were calling him a racist, and I just don't think he is. Now, I know that you guys may have heard of him. If you have, I urge you to just go watch some of his interviews. I've seen some with Sam Harris, which I don't like how Sam Harris now is attacking Joe Rogan, but I've always learned a lot from Sam. He's a neuroscientist and kind of a philosopher, and he's a very brilliant man. He had on many, many brilliant people throughout the years, and even Sam said he owed Charles Murray an apology because the science is kind of irrefutable. But the bigger question is, if we're expecting certain things of certain groups and they're not intellectually capable of doing certain things, then that could be, we're setting people up for failure. We're designing prison systems around the disparaging differences between different racial groups, and it's wrong. It's wrong. It's someone with a learning disability. It would be wrong for me to tell them that they can be an astrophysicist. It's wrong. It's untrue, and it's wrong. And I don't even know how to go about fixing this because they've tried everything. Don't think that the government hasn't tried. The government has tried. I remember I was one of the last groups that ended up getting bussed because we take what is essentially an IQ test. It's a standard test that everyone takes every year throughout school, where you have to go into the library or wherever. Now you probably could do it in the classroom. We didn't have laptops back then. I'm 30 years old. But you would take a standardized test, and it would say, as a whole, how well your school was doing, whether or not it was elementary or middle school or high school. And what they decided to do back then, I was at the tail end of this, is they would take the smartest kids and they would move them to different schools. And they would take the kids that had scored the lowest and they would move them to the schools that were at the top of the bell curve as far as intelligence went and as far as the capacity to learn was concerned throughout the population of students. This didn't work, guys. It absolutely didn't work. I got bussed. It didn't work. I was going to get bussed, and then my parents were smart enough to take me out and put me in a different school district because it wasn't beneficial to me. But the truth is that it really wouldn't have mattered. There's psychological studies that have been done over the course of decades where they've compared even twins that are genetically similar, identical twins, and they were separated at birth. And funny enough, they grew up on opposite sides of the US, and they go back to them after they've lived their lives and they're married and they have children. They have the same job. They have like the same looking husbands. They look identical. They're husbands that they chose at random. They didn't even know that they had a sister or a brother that was identical to them. They have basically the same income level. They have the same number of children. They have the same job. They live in the same type of area. It's eerily similar, and it's very shocking because that just means how much influence do you actually have? They've done other studies where in which they have tested whether or not a parent really has influence over their child's success. And as long as you create a fundamental baseline for a child, being nutrition and sleep, etc., as long as you give them the necessary components for them to grow and prosper, your input means absolutely nothing to who they turn out to be. And that makes sense, guys. Think about your own life. You probably look somewhat like your parents, and your parents look somewhat like their parents. That is phenotypical, right? Your phenotype, your expression of genes that people can see because it's worn on the outside of your skin. Now, there are also genotypical expressions as well, and just because they're too complex for us to be able to map them, which I believe the AI will map them exceptionally fast, and when they do, it's going to shock a lot of people. In fact, I think that they might just take that data and crumple it and throw it, because that is going to be a massive, massive hiccup in a world where we tell our children that they can do anything they like and be anyone who they would like to be in the future, as long as you work hard and you go to college. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case. I've seen it, guys. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've volunteered at underprivileged schools, and I get it, guys. I understand. It's very difficult for you to care about education when you go home and you have no food on the table and your father is in prison and your mom works 4 jobs and you have gunshots going off until 5 a.m. in the morning. I understand, but they've done studies to where these same children have been put into better situations, and it doesn't change. You know, I volunteered because this opened my eyes. I was in college and I volunteered at a school because I thought to myself, man, I want to make a difference in these children's lives. I think that maybe they're just not being taught the correct way. Maybe they don't have people that actually care about them, or maybe they just dismiss them as another statistic, and I don't want to see that. I want to help these children, because if I can help just one child escape this hell, then I've done something amazing. Like, think of what that could do for their future lineage of their family tree. Like, it could change them generationally for the better. And I went in and I kind of almost immediately came to find that I don't know what I could have done. I mean, they were just, and it was sad. I don't even want to get into it. It was sad. I was like, I don't know what to do about this. And I get it. And we're not just talking about one specific group of people. You can go online, you can look at bell curves of IQ, and it's undeniable. On the other hand, we don't get upset because there's tons of Jewish lawyers. Now, Is it because that on average they have a pretty high IQ? In fact, people of Ashkenazi descent have almost one standard deviation higher than the rest of the population, being at 100 as a baseline, as average. No, we don't get upset. Do we get upset because more Asians go to college? Do you think that's just because they are, are Asian? Like, do you not think it's because maybe they've learned more things than you have and taken high school more seriously? And then it gets to the point to where you say, yeah, but maybe it's because their parents had taught them that they need to study. And you might say, yeah, well, that is true, but why? Why were their parents that way? Why were their parents that way? Why is it that people that fall behind a broad blanket of Judaism have exceptional linguistic abilities? Is it because they studied the Talmud when they're younger, or is it because they were born that way? It's because they're born that way. It's undeniable, guys. And I know that you might say it's not because of that. There's so many different influences. It's not black and white. And I didn't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it's not this way or that way. There's many things in between that it could be. And because life isn't as simple. If it was as simple as saying this is it right here, we'd been able to fix it a long time ago. The reason we can't fix it is because there are so many different variables, and it's a very complex problem that I don't know if humans are able to competently even begin to look at with any sort of hope in changing it. It's so complex for us, but I don't know if it is capable of being fixed. That's kind of where I'm getting at. And I know that by now I've probably lost a large majority of people that just will deem me as calling me names and saying, well, you're this and you're that and you're privileged. And I don't know. I just know that you end up being exactly like your parents. And I don't know why. I mean, it's kind of blatantly obvious because if you think about it, I mean, you end up looking exactly like your parents. And yet when it comes to your mind, people think that it's malleable, and it's not. I can't take someone with an IQ of 80 and teach them how to do arthroscopic surgery. I can't do it. If you can, then good for you. But I mean, you're living in a fantasy land. It's not possible. And these studies were done by the military. They didn't even want to release them. They didn't even want to release them because they realized this a long time ago, back when they were preparing for a draft. And they said, oh my God, this is a massive problem. And back then, you could put certain things on civil justice inequality and lack of educational assistance and aid to certain sectors of the American community. But now everything is pretty much borderline equal. Do people live better off in certain groups than other groups? Yeah, but why? Because they made better decisions. Why did they make better decisions? It's because of genetics, guys. So I don't know how to solve this. Once again, I am just bringing this to the forefront in order to be spoken about, because this problem is a massive one, and it's one that we haven't solved. And if it is indeed true what I've said, then we have been going about it the wrong way. And I don't think that we should automatically put someone in a category as a deplorable here. All I'm saying is that people learn differently. Everyone learns differently. Everyone learns at their own pace. And I don't even know if the way we operate now is the best way. It might be the best way, because you don't want to label someone as incapable of doing something before you truly know, because there are outliers. But as a whole, this is old news that just is denied and pushed under the rug and not spoken about from fear of backlash. And I believe that scientists and using the scientific method shouldn't have human bias within it, yeah. But I don't think that when you get the results, you should view it with anything other than a non-biased lens of wanting to learn and wanting to analyze the evidence that you went out to seek. When you find that evidence, it is what it is. It's like if someone goes into debt, right? They're in debt $100,000. You can't be like, well, it's just a number. You're in debt 100 grand. I can't beat around the bush about it. I could say, well, it's not that bad. But the truth is that it's just a number. It's 100 grand. Now, as to why you're in debt, that is the question. And relating it back to the differences in IQ and in culture and in criminality, the reason is why. And I don't think that we know the reason. The bigger question is, if we did know the reason, would it matter? And would we accept it?